Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to cover something that is happening right now today. That is the sentencing of 22-year-old Jack Teixeira, the alleged Pentagon leaker. And we've covered this case before. I did like an hour-long live stream about it when it first happened. I will link that in the video description. If you are watching on one of our alternative platforms, Nice Crew TV or Rumble, you can find this on my YouTube channel. It'll be linked in the video description if you missed that live stream. And then I did another video about it that I think was just called All the World is a Stage, because it's such a ridiculous story. If you guys don't remember, this was back when the arrest happened, April 2023. He was 21 years old at the time. And he basically was talking to a group of friends in Discord, and he shared what the government calls classified information. So you can see he was sitting there like reading the Bible calmly as they conducted their tactical raid on the guy's house. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's just go back in time, though, at some of the interesting things that came from the Pentagon leaks. One aspect of this is how the Washington Post propagandists, when they covered this story, made mention that the document leaker believed federal law enforcement let the Buffalo Tops shooting occur. We've talked about Peyton Gendron, who himself was in communication with a, quote, former federal agent who has still not been named, by the way, despite the families of the victims wanting to know, and Mr. Ken Silva trying to obtain that information. The FBI has not given it. So I think that that is very interesting. That mention there, they claim he believed they let the shooting occur so they could argue for increased federal funding. So he went by OG in Discord. He was in a server called Thug Shaker Central, I believe. And I have a link here about my video on Peyton Gendron. And I said here, it appears there's a lot more going on with the, quote, leak story, and I still believe that to be the case. Here we've got Robert Evans from Bellingcat, which is a known clown cutout, saying he got in big trouble talking about Jack Teixeira at school for making threatening references to Molotovs. It was taken seriously enough that they denied him a gun license. He had to get his TC clearance first and then use that to get a gun permit. So that was the narrative from the clown assets posing as journalists. By framing Jack Teixeira as the Pentagon leaker, they basically, quote, thwarted a school shooting. None of this story made any sense. This was another thing that they claimed, along with the New York Times. They claimed that Mr. Teixeira had a, quote, cache of weapons. I mean, look at look at him. Does he look like he had a cache of weapons? But these are from the images. Those are not real guns. Those are airsoft guns. And they believed, they claim he was probably planning some mass casualty event, another historical event, another day of January in infamy and 9/11. Luckily, they heroically saved us by thwarting this. Like, that's their narrative. Ken Silva says, still waiting for the DOJ to show the, quote, bazooka they supposedly found at Jack Teixeira's home. Yeah, funny how that happens. And here's an article from the Libertarian Institute about this from May of 2023. Jack Teixeira, the deep state and captured media. Suspected Pentagon documents leaker Jack Teixeira, a 21-year-old Denton, Massachusetts Air National Guardsman, allegedly released classified documents without permission about the sobering U.S. intelligence assessment of Ukraine's prospects in the Russia-Ukraine war, that Ukraine basically couldn't win. Those documents he allegedly leaked also revealed several dozen U.S. soldiers were operating in the war zone, the equivalent of 2 special ops teams, despite official denials, along with CIA operatives already known to be calling missile and artillery strikes in the war. Just days after his April 13 arrest, local Boston TV news stations were broadcasting Teixeira's high school disciplinary record. He was was suspended in high school for, quote, threatening language, don't you know? It's like the old joke about the principal telling a kid this is going on your permanent record, except it's now a reality. If only Teixeira could have cut a deal like Bart Simpson, we wouldn't have to be having this discussion now. What does Teixeira's high school disciplinary record have to do with his revelations about official lies and secrets about America's involvement in a war with the world's other nuclear superpower? Nothing, of course. There is no journalistic value in the story that Teixeira was suspended in high school for, quote, threatening language. He said he was describing a video game at the time. Newsflash, he was a gamer. It has no relationship to the story about Ukraine war lies and has much journalistic value, as much as my own high school disciplinary record or yours. Such dirty laundry in decades past used to be relegated to discussions of celebrity divorces in supermarket tabloids, but it has a lot of value if your goal is to engage in a general character assassination using compliant media. So it brings up a couple of questions. Why is the media reporting this, and how did they get this information? The second question is the easiest to answer. The U.S. government's executive branch careerists gave it directly to them, of course. It was part of the official filing by now former U.S. Attorney Rachel S. Rollins asking federal district court to keep Teixeira in jail until trial, which of course they got their wish. And they're asking for 17 years. He pleaded guilty, I would say under duress, to 6 counts of violating the Espionage Act and willful retention of classified documents, which is just ridiculous. This is a whistleblower and a hero, in my opinion. How is this relevant to the legal need to deny Teixeira bail and keep him in jail until trial if the worry was he wouldn't return to court for trial or would publicly reveal more official state secrets? Again, it doesn't. The purpose of including his high school disciplinary record, one that was confidential and could only be obtained through court warrants or intelligence community surveillance, in the filing was to engage in a deliberate and planned public character assassination of Teixeira through compliant media organs. This is, by the way, how these hoaxes are done, with working with the media to basically convict these people in the court of public opinion before they ever get a day, before they get to have their day in court, before any discovery has come in. The media is already on the side of the state in these cases. Rollins, or more likely, her handlers in Washington, wanted to destroy this young man publicly by unnecessarily releasing his private sins to the press in an attempt to distract the media from exposing the official lies Ukraine can win its war against Russia and that U.S. combat troops are not present on the ground. Both lies. Plus a bonus, it serves the double purpose of poisoning the available pool of unbiased jurors in advance of a trial, making a public example to deter future whistleblowers. Again, they did this to the Whitmer guys, to the J6ers. This is how the game is played. Say what you will about Rollins. The feds assigned the role to someone who has hands-on experience in this specific task. Rollins resigned Friday, May 19, from her role as U.S. Attorney, District Attorney for Massachusetts because an IG report by the U.S. DOJ revealed she'd done the same thing to a candidate for Suffolk County District Attorney, an elected state position. According to the Inspector General report on Rollins, quote, Rollins assisted a candidate in a partisan political election and sought to influence the election by, among other things, disclosing non-public, sensitive DOJ information to the press. In other words, she conspired to engage in a media smear of a public person using confidential, non-public information. Does this sound familiar? But there's an important difference between both the Teixeira case and the Trump-Russia collusion hoax and the local candidate Rollins was accused of smearing. Disclosing private information to defame a candidate in a local election is a no-no unless he is an enemy of the deep state. But if the deep state wants to character assassinate someone, whether holder of the highest office in the land or all the way down to a lowly Air National Guard private, then that's fine. Rollins suffered, of course, no negative consequences from smearing Teixeira. Only when smearing someone who wasn't an enemy of the national security apparatus did she face an inquiry. Now, back to the original question about CBS Boston and other media reporting that Teixeira was suspended from high school. Why are they reporting something that has no value? No news value, certainly, because word was put out to destroy his character in order to distract from the revelations that came about the information that he disclosed. Sometime after the defection of Soviet spy Anatoly Golitsyn in 1962, the former KGB officer suggested to a CIA handler that National Review founder and syndicated columnist William Buckley help edit the book he was working on, and that it be serialized in Reader's Digest. It was a logical request. Conservative icon Buckley was known to be a CIA veteran and had formed National Review around his Langley friends. And with circulation in the millions, Reader's Digest was probably the highest circulation periodical with CIA assets on staff. The late 60s and early 70s were the height of the CIA's Operation Mockingbird, where agents infiltrated and controlled hundreds of media corporations and journalists, respectively, toward the CIA's stated goals of fighting the Cold War against the Soviet Empire. Mockingbird is a campaign still officially denied by the CIA, so its activities can be said to have never been completely shut down, even if they were suspended for a few years. Yes, I agree. But moving on from this, I wanted to remind you guys that in May of 2023, his lawyer filed a motion to withdraw as counsel. This must have come after the pressure campaign to get him to plead guilty. They probably told him he was looking at life in prison and that they have a 99% conviction rate, which they basically do. And I just wanted to remind you that in June of 2023, before he decided to plead guilty, when he was still fighting this, this was a quote from here. Teixeira smiled and waved at his family when he entered the courtroom. Later, as he pleaded not guilty to each count during the brief hearing, Teixeira stood with lawyers in an orange jumpsuit with rosary beads in front of the judge. This is a Christian man. That is why they had to destroy him. Now, October 30th, the lawyers for alleged Pentagon Discord leaker Jack Teixeira apparently filed some sensitive documents in court. When they were supposed to remain under seal, the judge ordered any third party to destroy them. And Ken says, please tell me someone actually saved these documents. And then he says, by the way, the judge in Teixeira's case modified her unconstitutional order the day after she issued it. A redacted version of Teixeira's sentencing memorandum is now available to the public. Now, moving on to today. Alleged Pentagon Discord leaker Jack Teixeira is set to be sentenced today at 2:30 p.m. That's happening now. Jack is a gamer who exposed war crimes by the Biden administration. He faces 17 years in prison. These are some pictures of him as a kid, and that's him when he worked at KFC, just coming home from basic training with his family, just a regular American good kid. Here we've got Reuters from earlier today. The U.S., of course, is seeking 17 years in prison. They want to destroy this kid's life. They want to make an example out of him, and his lawyers are requesting 11 years. Prosecutors will urge a judge Tuesday to sentence Jack Teixeira to nearly 17 years in prison for leaking online highly classified military documents while really embarrassing the government. Teixeira, 22, will appear before a federal judge in Boston for sentencing after pleading guilty to perpetrating what U.S. prosecutors hysterically call one of the most significant and consequential violations of the Espionage Act in American history. Clowns, all of them. Teixeira, who has remained in custody since his April 2023 arrest, pleaded guilty in March to 6 counts of willful retention and transmission of classified information relating to national defense over a leak last year of a trove of classified documents to a group of gamers on the messaging app Discord. Teixeira is slated to face a court-martial in March on separate military charges brought by the Air Force that he obstructed justice and failed to obey a lawful order. His military lawyers are negotiating a resolution to the case, according to his defense team. Before his arrest, Teixeira had been an airman first class at Otis Air National Guard base in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where he worked as a cyber defense operations journeyman or an IT support specialist. Despite being a low-level airman, Teixeira had a top-secret security clearance and started in January 2022 accessing hundreds of classified documents relating to topics like Russia's invasion of Ukraine, according to prosecutors. He shared classified information on the chatting app Discord and private servers, where he talked about having access to stuff for Israel, Palestine, Syria, Iran, and China. So, obviously, this is a kid who is autistic. He's isolated, like his lawyer said. His intent was never to harm the United States, but to educate friends he made online about world events. That was his goal. So this was not somebody who had any kind of ill intent. It's not like he was leaking to the media or anything like that. So Bob Ward says, I am in federal court, Boston, for sentencing of Jack Teixeira, the Dighton, I hope I'm saying that right, Massachusetts Air National Guardsman, who admitted to sharing classified military documents via an internet chat. The U.S., of course, disgustingly, is seeking 17 years. And of course, his lawyers wanted 11. U.S. Marshals just led Jack into courtroom 9. He is wearing prison orange. He smiled at his family as he was led into the courtroom, and let's see if there's been any update since that. It looks like there has. Judge Talwani, prosecutors and defense attorneys are trying to determine how to calculate Teixeira's 6 counts into his sentence. Prosecution and defense want to lump them all together. The judge thinks these are 6 separate counts with 6 separate penalties. That's absolutely insane. Federal prosecutor, the damage caused is historic. Well, I would say you are histrionic. 200-month sentence is warranted. Teixeira understood the risk to his country and did it anyway. I don't know how these people sleep at night. They're so disgusting. So that is where we stand right now. I wanted to get this out while his sentencing is happening. Just encourage you guys to pray for this young man. Of course, he still faces the court-martial later on. And I find the entire thing to be utterly despicable. He should not have his entire life ruined for something so minor and honestly, I think that it was a heroic thing to do. We need more whistleblowers to come out, honestly. And so I think that this man should be celebrated as a hero. He should be treated as any other whistleblower is treated, should be given whistleblower protections. They should not be allowed to throw the book at him to make an example out of him, which is what they're doing now. I'm interested to know, though, what you guys think. Again, please keep this guy in your prayers. And that's all for now. Have a good day. Whee!